starting prayer will be from the Gita itself, Bhagavad Gita itself. This is in chapter 11, verses 43, 44. It's a bigger hymn, and 2 stanzas will chant. It's also in Universal Prayers on page 80. Chapter 11, Bhagavad Gita, slokas 43 and 44. 2 slokas we will chant. This is a hymn to Bhagavan, Lord Purushottama, and we will start with that prayer. It's already 2 o'clock. Can start. Om Pitasi lokasya characharasya tvamasya pujyascha gururgariyan natvassamostyabyadikah kutonyah lokatrayepya pratipaprabhava tasmat pranamya pranidhaya kayam prasadaye tvamahamishamidhyam piteva putrasya sakheva sakhyuh priyah priyayarhasi deva sodhum. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. O Lord, you are the Father of the world of the moving and the non-moving, greater than the greatest. You are the one object of worship. There is no one equal to thee in all the worlds. Who then can excel thee, O thou of incomparable power? Therefore I prostrate myself before you in adoration and crave thy forgiveness. Forgive me, O Lord, as a father forgives his son, a friend his friend, a lover his beloved. Om peace. May there be peace and joy in our hearts. May there be peace and harmony amongst all beings. May there be peace everywhere in nature. Let us start from verse number 16 in chapter 6. In the previous verse, verse number 15, which we studied last time, Bhagavan Sri Krishna explained what will happen when a person is established in deep meditation, in yoga. In verse number 15, that person achieves supreme peace, which is same as nirvanam, which is same as moksha or liberation. Totally become free from all limitations and attachments and all limitations, and realizing one's divine nature, which was already there inherently. It was there, but it had been covered by ignorance, and that ignorance has been removed by meditation. Mind became pure, and then our true, pristine, divine nature came out, and we experienced it. That is what happened. That's the ultimate goal of meditation. But to reach there, it's a long road. We have to work very hard. Now, in the next 2 verses, 16, 17, very practical instructions are given, which we have to practice every day. Namely, instruction, moderation in everything, not going towards either extreme. So let us do verse number 16. नात्यश्नतस्तु योगोऽस्ति न चैकान्तमनश्नतः न चातिस्वप्नशीलस्य जाग्रतो नैव चार्जुन. 17 also we can do. युक्ताहारविहारस्य युक्तचेष्टस्य कर्मसु युक्तस्वप्नावबोधस्य योगो भवति दुःखः. These are very simple verses, nothing really complicated. Na, ati, ashnataha, tu. There are 4 words there combined together. And the first part of that first line, natyashnatastu, is made up of really 4 different words. Na, ati, ashnataha, tu. Tu means but, however. Ati ashnataha. Ati means too much. Ashnata means one who eats too much. For such a person who eats too much, yogaha na asti. That na comes in the beginning. Then for a person who eats too much, yogaha asti. Yoga nasti. For a person who eats too much, yoga is not possible. So in the various scriptures, in the Puranas and also in some part of the Vedas, Brahmana portion of the Vedas, there are instructions on about all these small daily things, how to do small things, how to eat, how much to eat, when to eat, all those things are there. Na ati ashnatasta yogosti. For a person who eats too much, yoga is not possible. And then the opposite extreme. Nacha ekantam anashnataha. For a person who does not eat enough. Some people they don't want to gain weight, so they don't eat enough, and they suffer from malnutrition. That is also not good for practice of yoga. Moderation, middle path. Second line, that's about food. First line. Second line, na ati swapnashilasya, na chati swapnashilasya, na cha ati. Swapnashila means a person who is given to sleeping too much. Ati swapnashila. Too much sleeping. For such a person who spends a long time in sleep, yoga is not possible. Jagrato naiva charjuna. For a person who always remains awake, jagrata, does not sleep enough. For such a person also, yoga is not possible. You can see in Sri Ramakrishna used to sleep very little. He would be up away until 11 o'clock, 12 o'clock, singing devotional songs and talking to people. Then he would maybe sleep for an hour or two, and he would again up and singing songs and chanting names. We cannot do that one. Only Sri Ramakrishna can do that one and get away with it. We need more sleep. Average yogis need more sleep. Holy Mother used to go to bed at 11 o'clock and get up at 3 o'clock. That's was her daily routine. 3 o'clock or even before 3 o'clock she used to get up. But those are exceptional people. We don't have the kind of abilities. They are divine people. We cannot emulate them. We cannot do what they do. But we have to follow the general instruction. You have to get enough sleep. How much sleep each person has to determine depending upon age and health condition. Some people need more, some people can do with less. We have to determine sleep. Sleep and food, 2 things are mentioned here in this verse. Both have to be kept in moderation. Too much food is stomach becomes heavy, we feel sleepy, we cannot meditate. When you sit down for a meditation, if you have after a heavy meal, then you feel sleepy, that we know. Or if you are very hungry, then you cannot meditate also. You'll be thinking about food. So moderation. It's nothing very complicated here, simple general instruction. Then we go to verse number 17. Before that, in the commentary, let me see, there is a quotation from Shatapatha Brahmana. Why I'm reading is this: Yadukhava Atma Sammitam Annam Tadavati Tanna Hinasti Yadbhuyo Hinasti Tanna Kaniyo Nam Natadavati. The English translation is: the food in sufficient measure, enough quantity, protects the body and does not create trouble. When we eat more than that, then it creates trouble. If we eat less than that, then it does not give enough protection to the body. So this kind of instruction gives in the Shatapatha Brahmana. The reason why I'm reading that, it comes in many other places, all the Puranas and in the Vedas. As you know, there are four parts. Samhita part, where all the hymns to various Vedic deities are there. Samhita, and Brahmana portion, where rituals are described, Vedic rituals are described. And Aranyaka portion for explanation of the rituals and meditation. And lastly, the Upanishads. The Brahmana portion, which contains the rituals, they contain all these kind of instructions on the minute details of daily life. That is why this is given here. Now we go to verse number 17. Food and sleep. Here, activity and relaxation. 17th verse. Yuktahara viharasya yuktacheshtasya karmasu yuktasvapnavabodhasya yogo bhavati dukkha. Yukta ahara viharasya. Yukta means appropriate, just enough, just the right quantity. Ahara vihara. Ahara means food, vihara means relaxation. Yuktahara viharasya. Yukta cheshtasya karmasu. Karmasu means in activity, in work. Yukta cheshtasya. Optimum level of work. Some people are workaholics. They don't know when to stop. They keep on working and they don't get enough rest, and they don't have time for any other anything else in life, let alone spiritual life. They don't have time for a family or taking care of their own health. That is not good. If such people cannot practice yoga. Yukta cheshtasya karmasu. Moderate amount of work. Some variation can be there from day to day. We can't be like machines, but we have to keep up the average. Yukta swapna vabodhasya. So our swapna means sleeping, dream or sleeping. Avabodha means waking up, awake. So enough time for sleeping, enough time for staying awake. For such a person who practices moderation in food, activity, work, and sleep, four things. In these four things, if one practices moderation, for such a person, yogo bhavati dukkha. Yoga removes dukkha. When you see the suffix ha, that means something that removes. Dukkha ha means it removes dukkha. If you practice yoga with moderation in all these things, then you'll be free from trouble. Our yoga practice will be successful. So moderation. So these two verses, 16, 17, message is simple, direct, nothing complicated. Practice of moderation in everything. In speech also. Some people keep on saying something, necessary, unnecessary, relevant, irrelevant, timely. That is very harmful for spiritual practice. There also, we have to practice moderation in everything. Now, in the next verse, Sri Krishna describes what happens to a person who practices yoga in this way. Yoga Rudha, earlier we saw in the verse number 3, two things we saw in the verse number 3 in this chapter. Yoga Rudha Arurukshu. Arurukshu means a person who is starting to practice yoga and then aspiring to become a yogi. Such a person is called an Arurukshu. Yoga Rudha is one who has practiced yoga for quite some time and has achieved a measure of concentration, can sit down and meditate for quite a long period of time. The Yoga Rudha is being described in verse number 18. Such a person is totally absorbed within the self, not much attachment to the outside world. Outside world is full of distractions. That is described in verse number 18. Yada vinayatam chittam atmanyevavatisthate nisprahas sarvakamebhyo yukta ityuchyate tada. Yada tada, when, then. Yada viniyatam chittam. Niyama means control. Niyama means control. Niyatam chittam means controlled mind. If a person has controlled the mind, that means stopping it from going to unwanted topics during meditation. That's the main thing. Yada, how to do it will come in verse number 26. Yada viniyatam chittam, when a controlled mind, atmani eva avatisthate, abides, rests only in the Atma, not in anything else. So when an ordinary person sits down for meditation, the mind dwells on the Ishtadevata and then it also dwells on so many other things. Every few seconds it will go here and there. In between it will come to Ishtadevata also. But when a yogi who has practiced yoga for some time sits down for meditation, such a person's mind, which is controlled mind, viniyatam chittam, controlled mind, atmani eva avatisthate, stays only in the Atman, does not think of any other subject other than the self. That is the achievement we want, that we have to keep in mind. And then one more requirement. Nispraha sarvakamebhyo. The word kama has two meanings. Kama means desire. Kama also means the object of desire. Kama means desire. Kama also means the object of desire. So many objects of desire. People desire so many different things. Somebody wants this, somebody wants that. Innumerable objects of desire. They're all called kamas. Sarva kamebhyaha nispruhaha. Spruha means desire, craving. No craving for any object of desire, object or experience. Desire for getting something, some object, like a house or a jewelry or a car, object. Desire for experiencing something, relationship, position, power, etc. No desire for any such thing should be there in that person's mind. Desires are the greatest obstruction to meditation. The fewer desires we have, easier it becomes to meditate. So, nisprahas sarvakamebhyaha, a person who is established in meditation, he is free from desire for any object of desire, anything. Such a person, tada, then yukta iti uchyate, then he is said to be a yogi. So two things have to be noticed in this verse number 17. The mind should be controlled. Vinyatam chittam. It must dwell only on the self. Atmani eva avatishtate. On the self you can replace by your Ishtu Devata. If you are meditating on Sri Ramakrishna, it must dwell only on Sri Ramakrishna. Whatever your object of meditation is, mind must be only on that object, on nothing else. Second thing is Nispraha Sarvakamebhya, free from desire for anything outside in the world. However much it may be attractive, promising, not interested. That lack of interest in the outside sense objects, that is a requirement. That will come with time. As our thinking matures, you will realize the futility of seeking happiness in the outside world. It takes time. In the beginning, it's all outside world. We want this, we want to get a promotion. If a person is young in a professional life, he wants to get a promotion, he wants to become the head of the section or the department, then he wants to become the vice president, then he wants to build a house, then he wants to marry, then he wants to do so many things. It's all there. But gradually, if you practice meditation and also vichara, most important thing is vichara. Every day we should vichara. As important, more important than eating every day. Vichara means we should sit down and think, what is the direction in which I am going? I'm doing all these things. I'm spending 10 hours a day in the office. I'm doing this. I'm doing all the accomplishments in everything I'm doing, extending, building new department, everything. Where will this all lead to me in 10 years from now? What about my spiritual life? That kind of vichara has to be done. Without vichara, if you lead day to day, it becomes a mechanical life. And by the time you realize, you'll be already so many decades will have passed. So that should not be allowed to happen. Vichara, inquiry, what is the purpose of my life? Being born as a human being, what am I supposed to achieve in this life? Besides worldly life. Everybody goes through certain things, education, childhood education, career, job, family, all those things. But is that all? Or is there something else as a human being I have to achieve? That questioning has to be there. The spiritual awakening has to come. The spiritual dimension has to be awakened. And that is when these things will happen. Then you realize the futility of all these worldly things running about in the world. Shankaracharya and the Viveka Chudamani, for some of you, if you are interested, I can refer to 2 verses in the Viveka Chudamani. Some of you studied that one. 270, 271. Viveka Chudamani. There Shankaracharya says the whole package of worldly activities, accomplishments, activities, property, fame, they are all the greatest distraction to spiritual life. 2 verses are there, 270 and 271. They call them Lokanavartanam. Lokanavartanam tyaktva dehanuvartanam. Shastranuvartanam tyaktva swadhyasapanayam kuru. Lokanavartanam means preoccupation with worldly things. Not only with one's own things, but other people's lives concerns also. People are interested, enormously curious about other people's lives, what they are doing, celebrity gossip, who is doing what, the political news, lot of interest in other people's lives. It's their problem, but we make it our problem by reading about it, thinking about it, discussing about it, spending time on that one, putting all those thoughts into our minds. Our mind should not be allowed to harbor all those thoughts of other people, what their problem. Governor Cuomo in New York, something going on. Why we should think about that one? We make it our problem by thinking about it. It's an obstruction to spiritual life. So Sri Ramakrishna said, don't read newspaper, it's an instruction. So Lokana Vartanam, activities and things happening in the world, other people. Then Dehana Vartanam, too much preoccupation with one's own self body, what food to eat, what clothes to wear, which restaurant and all those things. So much about thought about food. Food occupies a major portion of our time, energy and resources. We don't have to do that much. Dehanavartanam. And then if there is any time left, Shastranavartanam. Some people study scriptures for scholarly accomplishment. They want to become scholars. So that is not necessary. You have to study scriptures just to know the instructions, what to do, and then plunge into practice. So these are all distractions. So a yogi's mind, nisprahas sarvakamebhyaha, free from desire for any object of enjoyment, kama sarvakamebhyaha. Such a person is called yukta, a yogi. We go to verse number 19. The state of mind of such a person who can meditate calmly is compared to the flame in a flame, like a candle flame in a windless place. It does not flicker. If there is no wind in a very still room, if the candle flame is there, it stays very steady, does not flicker. Yogi's mind should be like that when we meditate. Verse number 19. यथा दीपो निवातस्थो नेङ्गते सोपमा स्मृता योगिनो यतचित्तस्य युञ्जतो योगमात्मनः. As light in a windless pot stirs not, this is the simile of the yogin whose mind is controlled and who applies himself to yoga. An ordinary person's mind keeps on wavering one topic to another topic. But a person who has practiced meditation, the mind does not wander. Stays steady on the object of meditation. How to do that one will come in the verse number 26. How to keep the mind without wavering, without going to other topics. That's a key verse, 26 will come to that. Then verse number 20. Verse number 20 again takes us back to the earlier topic. That means less interest in the world, more interest in the self. More time spent on looking at the divine presence within, less time spent on looking at the world outside. That's the quality of Citta Prajna we studied in the second chapter. So let us see verse number 20. Yatra paramate chittam niruddham yoga sevaya yatra chaivatmanatmanam pashyannatmani tushyati. Read the translation. When through the practice of yoga, the motionless mind withdraws from objects and rejoices in the self, beholding the self by one's inner sense. That is then a person can become a yogi. Here the main point to notice is niruddham chittam. Nirodha means control. Chitta means mind. Niruddham chitta means a controlled mind. How is the mind controlled? Yoga sevaya, by the practice of meditation. Meditation is the object, remaining concentration, remaining in deep meditation, the object. Meditation is also the method. The method. By meditating, we become able to meditate. Yoga sevaya niruddham chittam. The mind controlled by the practice of yoga. Yatra uparamate. Where does it dwell? In the self. Yatra chaiva atmana atmanam pashyan atmani tushyati. Atmana atmanam pashyan tushyati. Chittam tushyati. The mind rejoices. Tushyati means rejoices by looking at the self within the self. Now, one thing we have to notice here. If you look at the world outside, you will not get peace. Mind becomes restless. If you look at the happenings in the world, mind will become restless. That we know from experience. If you look at the Atman within, mind becomes absolutely peaceful. That is Satchidananda. So where should we look at most of the time? Atmani. Atmani eva atmana pashyan tushyan. So this has come in many places before. You have to review or connect old slokas. For a spiritual seeker, more time must be spent looking within the self, Atman, God within, Ishtadevata, doing japa or whatever, and less time should be spent on worldly activities outside, as much as necessary. Worldly activities can't give up completely. People have to study, students have to study, or people have to go to work and pay bills and do all those things. They have to be done as much as possible. While doing those things, also doing them as service, as a dasa, servant of Lord, as an offering to God, as worship. Keep the thought of mind in God. And then spend more time in introspection, looking at the self. So this has come in several places. Second chapter. Second, see, when we study Gita, we study one sloka at a time and go to next sloka, next sloka, next sloka. If you do that, we get one kind of view. But if you connect related ideas in different parts of Gita, you get a better integrated view. That's what Dr. Ramakrishna tried to do last night in his Tampa class. So we have to associate these things where similar ideas have come so that we can associate them in our minds. Then you get a picture, integrated picture. Otherwise, you get a isolated view of this loka, this loka, this loka separately. Where is the connection? Connection has to be made. So here is the connection. When Arjuna asked Sri Krishna, what are the qualities of a Sthita Prajna? Sthita Prajna Saka Bhasha, second chapter 54. The first thing that Sri Krishna says, describing a Sthita Prajna, is one who seeks self, joy within the self. Verse number 55, second chapter, Sri Krishna says, begins the description of a Sthita Prajna by saying, Prajahati yada kaman sarvan parthamanogatan atmanyevatmana tushtaha sthita prajnastadochyate. Atmani eva, in the self alone, atmana tushtaha, pleased by the self. Looking for happiness in the self is the right thing to do. That's where you can find it. Looking for happiness in the world is going to be a failure. That is to be understood firmly. Then it has come in the third chapter also, where we should look for happiness. Third chapter, sloka number 17. Yastu atmaretireva syat atmatriptascha manavaha atmanyeva cha santushtaha tasya karyam na vidyate. One message you get in the Gita again and again in many places is, if you want peace, look for it inside. If you want joy, happiness, look for it inside. If you look for peace and happiness in the outside world, it will not work. Failure is going to happen. That message you will get in many places in the Gita. 8th chapter, 9th chapter, everywhere it will come. Now there are many places, but you stop here. And that joy that comes from within the self is a supreme kind of joy. There's nothing higher than that. Upanishads describe the kind of joy that comes from the self within. The happiness that comes from the world is practically nothing, is a pretense compared to the joy of the self. In the Taittiriya Upanishad, there is a very nice passage where the happiness of the world is compared to the joy of the Atman. There is no comparison. It is infinite. Infinite. There is no measure for that one. So big. The joy of the world is very small, very finite, limited in duration and also in quantity, magnitude. Always combined with some negativity. When you are happy, something else is negative is also happening at the same time. So that's not the way to find happiness. Find happiness in the self within. Find joy in the self within. That's one message Gita says, Vedanta says again and again and again. So forgetting that if you look for happiness outside in success, in money, in position, power, in all those things, family life, and you will get something, but it is not the right. You'll be disappointed later. Remember Nachiketa's story, why he refused all those things. So we go to 21. The joy of the self you get in meditation is described here. Sukhamatyantikam yattad buddhigrahyamatīndriyam vetti yatra na chaevayam sthitas chalati tattvataha. Sukham atyantikam yattad buddhigrahyam atindriyam vetti yatra na chaevayam sthitas chalati tattvataha. Atyantikam sukham, extreme happiness, joy. Worldly happiness is not extreme. It's happiness, but conditional. It will change. It depends upon other conditions being met. If you want to find happiness in family life, the family must be good, children must be good, husband, wife must be good, other people must be good. If they are not good, then family life cannot bring happiness, will only bring problem. Like the conditional nature is there, worldly happiness. Same thing about job, same thing about health. If the health is good, you are happy. If the health is not good, then money, everything is still there, still you cannot be happy. It's highly conditional kind of happiness that is also short-lived. Why go for that? Go for the infinite joy, atyantikam sukham. Nothing greater than that. Indescribable. Infinity cannot be described. Infinite joy cannot be described. It has to be only felt. When you feel it, the whole human frame will freeze. You won't even be able to feel or do or say or anything. That is in Samadhi, it will happen. That is our goal. It's a little bit distant goal as it looks now, but it is the goal that we have to strive to achieve. Sukham atyantikam. Buddhigrahyam, it can be intellectually, it can be understood. It can be like this. Atindriyam, but cannot be felt by the senses. Not sensory. Sensory pleasures are very temporary. Sensory pleasures we get by eating some good food, by smelling some good fragrance, and by touching something nice, or all those things. Those are sensory pleasures coming through the senses. Indriyam. Atindriyam, this one is not of that nature. The sensory pleasures are very highly conditional. They are explained, their limitations are explained in 522. The limitations of sensory pleasures are explained in the previous chapter 5, sloka 22. They are very highly conditional and temporary. They have a beginning and an end. Yehi samsparshaja bhoga dukkhayo naya evate Adyantavantah kaunteya nateshu ramate vadaha. Samsparshaja bhoga means pleasure that comes by contact of sense organ with sense object. That kind of pleasure is all worldly pleasure. All pleasure is of that type only. That one, dukkha yonaya evati. Eventually, it will leave, it will end. When it ends, it causes misery, dukkha. It has a beginning and an end, adyantavantaha. Therefore, teshu buddha naramate. 522. Buddha means a wise person. Does not take any delight, does not hanker. If it comes, it comes. If it goes, it doesn't matter. Does not hanker for me. Real happiness is where? In the self within. How do we get it? Meditation. Go deep. Transcending all the outside awareness and activities and preoccupations and everything. Go deeper and deeper inside. That is why this chapter speaks about meditation. Real joy, ananda, comes only from the self within. That's where the divine is present. That is ananda, Satchidananda. For 21. Sukhamatyantikam yattad buddhigrahyam atindriyam. Atindriyam means beyond the sensory pleasures. Cannot be captured by the senses, felt by the senses. Veti yatra na chaivayam stitaschalati tattvataha. Does not move from that. Once a person becomes established in that self, joy of the self, he does not like to move from there. Now the next verse, it extols the greatness, glory of this meditation, the joy of meditation. 22. Yam labdva cha param labham manyate nadhikam tataha yasmin sthito na dukkhena gurunapi vichalyate. Yam labdva, by gaining which, yam means the joy of meditation. Atma labham, Sankara says, the joy of the self. If he can reach that self in meditation, even once, if a glimpse, if we have, that will give us the motivation to continue. Yam labdva tataha adhikam aparam labham navidyate. If we have the joy of the self, Atmananda, if we have, then no other gain greater than that. No amount of money, no bigger position. Even the position of Brahma is a pittance compared to the joy of the self. The highest position a person can get is not the president of the United States. That's not the highest. That's only for in this country. The highest position a person can get is the position of Brahma, the creator, for one whole kalpa, period of cycle of creation. Then he can create. That is the biggest position. Even that fades into insignificance when compared to the joy of the self that you get by experiencing your divine nature. It's all explained in the Upanishads. When the position of Brahma is like a blade of grass. From the position of Brahma to the blade of grass, everything pales into insignificance compared to the joy of the self, which is obtained by meditation, going deep into oneself. Yasmin sthito na dukkhena gurunapi vichalyate. By being established in which? Yasmin, in the state of yoga. If a person is established in the state of yoga, sthitaha gurunapi dukkhena na vichalyate. Guru means heavy or severe. Even by the severest of calamities, a person remains totally untouched. No matter how much difficulty comes to a yogi, if he is established in his self, nothing touches. He remains aprakampya. He remains kutastha, unperturbed. Whatever happens. If the body is cut into pieces, he remains absolutely unaffected. Sadashiva Brahmendra Saraswati did that one. He was Avadhuta in Tamil Nadu area a couple of 100 years ago. Avadhutas are people who are achieved the highest realization. They live a free life. They don't follow any convention. They don't stay in the ashrama. They don't have any gervakla. They don't have any rules or regulations. They just roam about freely, and they are above everything. They are not affected by anything. Nothing affects them. So this Sadashiva Brahmendra Saraswati is a very interesting story. It takes a long time, but I will just mention one incident. Very interesting. He composed many songs, kritis, that people sing. One day he was sitting on the bank of a river. There is no travel plan, there is no program, nothing. Just sitting there. That is all. Nowhere to go, nothing to do, no program, no lecture, no dinner, nothing. So all the sand came and covered his whole body. And he was not aware of it. Whole body was covered with sand. How long it was like that, we don't know. After some time, some construction workers went there with a cart and the shovels to gather sand for construction. So they were digging for sand with the shovels. And they were digging, they struck something, and they carefully saw it was somebody's head. Hair was there. Oh, then they carefully removed all the sand. They removed the sand, and this one person was sitting there. When all the sand was removed, that person he got up as if nothing had happened. How long he was there like that, buried under sand, we don't know. He got up and just little like this and walked away. These people are aghast. A construction worker, what is this? How long had he been buried under sand and he removed the sand? He is walking away as if nothing has happened. Like that, whatever happens to the body does not affect them. They are established in the joy of the self constantly. Nothing is higher than that. Yam labdhva, by gaining which, aparam tatah adhikam aparam labham na vidyate. Nothing greater than, there is no greater thing to be achieved than God realization. There is no higher goal for human life than God realization. All other goals are short term. The highest goal of human life is to know the self, Atmajnana, then self-knowledge or God realization. Or pure devotion, bhaktas say. Pure devotion is same as liberation. Higher than that, there is nothing. All their worldly accomplishments, they are this compared to this, they are nothing. Pale into insignificance. Yasmin sthito na dukkhe na guruna pi vichalyate. So we have a couple more minutes. Let me read 23, but we will discuss it next time. Tam vidya dukkha samyoga viyogam yoga samyitam sanischayena yoktavyo yogo nirvinna chetasa. Tam vidya dukkha samyoga viyogam yoga samyitam saha nischayena yoktavyaha saha yogaha anirvinna chetasa. That yoga has to be practiced with an undisturbed mind, anirvinna chetasa, by an undejected mind, calm mind. What is that yoga? Yoga that we are talking about is that state of meditation which permanently disconnects us with all suffering for all time. Once you are established in that yoga, no suffering of any kind will touch you. Dukkha samyoga viyogam. Dukkha means suffering. Samyoga means connection with suffering, having suffering. Viyoga means separation of that connection. No connection with suffering. That is yoga. Dukkha samyoga viyogam yoga sam. What is yoga? Yoga is that which permanently disconnects us from all suffering of all types for all time to come. Saha, that yoga has to be practiced. Yoktavyaha. How? Anirvinna chetasa. With an undejected mind, with a calm mind. So we'll spend some time for questions now. Only 4 or 5 minutes we still have. Then 23. Anything you want to add? Ram Gopal is thinking.
Can you, Maharaj, can you hear me? Hello? Yeah, yes, Maharaj. I wanted to ask, like, you were talking about vichara, like at the end of the day, like thinking about, like, where am I going? Where am I headed towards? So could you add a little bit more about that, Maharaj? Like, just so that it can be easy to practice that daily.
Okay. Daily we have to spend some time in vichara. Even if you are very busy, you should take at least 10, 15, 12 minutes to take a picture of how the day went, preferably at the end of the day. Since the time I got up, now it's about time for me to sleep. How did the day go? What did I do? What did I accomplish? And what should I have done that I could not do? Or what did I do that I should not have done? All this introspection has to be done. And then second thing is, the goal of my life is to realize God. That you have to fix. Mumukshutvam, liberation. You can call it liberation, salvation, God realization, self-knowledge, or pure devotion. Some goal is there, like that. Spiritual goal is there. Today, what did I do to advance towards that goal? And what should I do tomorrow? That introspection every day, it doesn't have to take much time, 5-10 minutes. What should I do tomorrow? How should I tweak my daily activities so that I can make a little bit more advanced towards the ultimate goal? You don't have to give up early goals because you are still a student. You have to study, you have to get a job, you have to go through so many things in life. Let all that happen. None of that need be stopped. But at the same time, this spiritual goal has to be kept in mind side by side. That vichara has to be done. Very good. Anything else, Indranil?
Nothing at this moment.
Very good. Yesterday we had a nice class by Ramakrishna. It was nice summary.
Swamiji, one more question. How do we try to focus on the self when we are constantly engaged in the world?
Practice of meditation that comes in verse number 26. Sit down for meditation, fix a certain time and place, for meditation. Other time you can use for worldly activities, job, family, everything. At that time when you fix for meditation, then you tell yourself during this next 30 minutes or whatever, I'm not going to think about the world. I will think only about the self. Self or Ishtadevata or Japa, that whatever you decide to do, that only you will do. And watch your mind. The moment the mind goes away from that object of meditation, immediately bring it back and make it dwell on that topic of meditation. Repeated practice of Abhyasa Yoga. You have to keep on doing this one every day, preferably twice a day, minimum 15 minutes each time. Some days you cannot do it, it's okay. You can make up. So practice is the key.
Swamiji, my problem is I have so much to do that I can't finish my practice after office.
So much to do.
I mean, so much Parayanam. By the time I finish it takes 7-8 hours, and I cannot do every day 7-8 hours. I spend 3-4 hours, but I feel as if I didn't finish what I wanted to do because I didn't finish the whole thing.
Then your emphasis on chanting. That is your main.
By the time I finish office, Swamiji, and then come to this, it's already like 3-4 hours, and then there's no time. So
yeah, that means you have decided to spend more time in chanting the Upanishads, Stotrams, and Parayanam and all those. That's okay. That's another way.
I mean, because is it okay that you don't finish? You just do what you can.
You have to adjust your timing and the amount of chanting you want to do that you can finish. You have so much time in a day, and you have to you can only chant a certain amount during that time. That you have to adjust. Which one do you want to chant? Which priority? How many hours you want to chant? You have to decide that one. How much you want to chant? Narayana you want to chant, Vishnu Sahasranama you want to chant, and Rudram, all those things you want to chant. That will take time, hours and hours. So you can keep on doing that, and then that will be your main practice. Chanting of hymns. Then you will have not time for a meditation or anything else. That you have to decide which one do you want to do, how much.
I mean, within that itself, you have Japam. Like if you do Devi Mahatyam, in between you have to do Japam anyway. So Japam is there. So
yeah, you can combine those things. You have to work out a certain combination, some schedule that includes everything you want to do in a certain time. That you have to somehow manipulate and maneuver that schedule. How much of what and when.
Thank you, Swamiji.
Swamiji, can you elaborate on the state of yoga?
Yoga means concentration of the mind on the self.
Yeah.
When here in this chapter 6, when we use the word yoga, that means the mind dwelling on the self. Self can be Atman, formless, attributeless, Sachidananda. Self can be your Ishtadevata, dwelling on that one. Holy Mother said to one disciple, she said, he had already received mantra. She said to him that if you want to meditate on Sri Ramakrishna, you meditate, but if you feel like meditating on me, you can meditate on me because he dwells in my body. She said this, these are her words. Sri Ramakrishna dwells in my body, you can meditate on me, my form. So that becomes his object of meditation. Keeping the picture of Holy Mother and meditating on her picture and repeating the mantra. That is simple practice.
State. And the perfection of yoga will be when you have achieved union with God.
Ultimately, union with the self, divine self.
Union with the divine. That is state of perfection.
That is supreme peace, that is liberation. You are liberated from the ignorance that you are the body and the mind, that you are one with the divine. You are always one with the divine, that we didn't know. That ignorance is removed. The Vedanta says you don't have to be liberated, because the bondage that we are suffering is something that is superimposed. Our true nature is divine even now. If you are not divine now, you cannot become divine by doing meditation. Something that is not inherent, that is acquired by effort, will also go away, will be short-lived. Not like that. We are essentially, intrinsically divine. But that divinity is masked for majority of us by the mind, which is steeped in worldliness. If that worldliness is removed by spiritual practice, by reading scriptures, by holy company, by meditation, by japa, then gradually mind becomes free from its attachment to the world and goes gradually inwards and realizes, oh, this was always my true nature. That realization will come. Removal of ignorance is the main purpose of all spiritual practices.
Good. Thank you. Thank you,
Okay.
Swami.
Closing prayer. Om Sarve Bhavantu Sukhinah, Sarve Santu Niramaya, Sarve Bhadrani Pashyantu, Ma Kaschid Dukkha Bhag Bhavet. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om. May all be happy. May all be free from diseases and other problems. May all realize and practice what is noble and dharmic. May everybody have love and respect towards each one. No ill will, no hatred. And may no one be subject to misery. Hari Om Tat Sat. Sarvam Sri Ramakrishna Arpanamastu. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Peace within us all. Adhyatmika Shanti. Peace among all of us. Adi Bhautika Shanti. Peace in nature. Adi Devika Shanti. Hari Om Tat Sat. Sarvam Sri Ramakrishna Arpanamastu. All of you stay well, and God willing, we'll see you next week.
Thank you, sir.